The price of arcane spirit shields is through the roof, items used to create enchantments are trading at 20 times their price, all while Serenic scales are less than 30% of their previous all-time low. The Zamorak boss update has caused some extensive market shifts, and in this video we'll talk about those in addition to some new information on both the Grand Exchange and death cost changes. So whenever you're ready, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. If you enjoy all kinds of RuneScape content and want to stay updated with the recent news, be sure to subscribe. Boss releases usually affect many prices of PVM items and certain drops, especially if they introduce items that were previously either more difficult to obtain or just not very popular to farm. For the first time in many years, Onyxes are selling below the high alch value on the Grand Exchange, which means there's no reason to sell them, and Onyx Ball Tips are selling far below the high alch value for the first time ever. Zamorak's release impacted Onyx Ball Tips so hard that they went down from around 6.5k GP each, which is far above the high alch price, to more than 1000 GP below the item's high alch price. Hydrix Ball Tips also took a large hit in price, falling from 8000 GP each to around 6.2k GP each, but they seem to be recovering now, which doesn't surprise me as Hydrix criminal bolts are incredibly strong for ranged. Speaking of the ranged combat style, Serenic scales crashed so hard that they're now selling for less than 1/4 of the previous all-time low price, which is far below the high alch price. I of course immediately took advantage of this lovely discount and bought 2 Sirenic sets, which I'll be using to repair my augmented Sirenic armor set in the future. And yes, I just paid 10 million GP for a full tier 90 armor set. Another pleasant surprise was seeing Soul Runes selling for far lower prices than what they were selling for anywhere from 3 months to just 2 weeks ago. And Blood Runes also finally seem to be declining. Now, as someone who primarily uses magic nowadays, finally seeing those rune prices starting to decline, at least for now, is a blessing to my FSOA paradise. Alongside these items, many of the other drops from both Zamorak in the dungeon, like raw rocktails, dark Anamika stone spirits, dwarf weeds used for Von bombs, and even torstals used for overloads, are also declining in price. They just keep hitting the nail on the head with the drop tables from these new boss releases. Now, if you've had any trouble trying to buy certain PVM items, like the ones that you're able to buff now thanks to those enchantments you can create using various items with those slivers you can get from the Zamorakian Undercity, you're not alone. It's probably because these enchantments are not only good, but also insane money, especially if they're easy to create without low volume secondary components. For example, the enchantment of Affliction, which I made only yesterday, sold for 157 million GP, and is apparently selling for even more now. What I'm trying to tell you here is that obtaining those slivers from the dungeon using ED4 lucky charms is good money, especially if you need to run those dungeons anyway to get the 25 skip requirement. Personally, I found that the enchantments that require low volume secondary items, like this one requiring the nomadic gloves, are not very profitable. Your profit will very much depend on the price people are selling these items for, and you're also limited by buy limits for example, the scrimshaws. Now, all of these secondary components to create these enchantments have increased in price so much you'd probably think the Grand Exchange is broken again. Items that are heavily affected because of the boss release are scrimshaws of ranging attack and magic, Gregorvik items for shadow components, Vindictus items for Ilujankan components, Hellware's items for Cyrware components which are used for the Blank Codex, Glorious Bars, Abyssal Vine Whips, Staves of Light, Dark Bows, Nomadic Gloves, and finally Static Gloves. And there's probably a few more, but these are the main ones. Apart from items directly related to money making from this boss going up, many PVM items have also been surging in value due to the nature of the boss and its mechanics. Tank armor like Crypt Bloom especially is going up because the boss just hits like a freaking truck. Grim pages are going up because a lot of players are using the Fracture Staff of Armador and just crit sticking everything. Hellhounds, which are used for high-end rages and to survive phase 7, are being used, and therefore binding contract supplies like Blood of Orcus and Hellfire Metal are also going up. Arcane Spirit Shields seem to be making a major comeback because I previously believed they were only really a popular choice for Telos in phase 4, but I could be wrong there. But yeah, they weren't used very often at all, people usually just stuck to the tier 90 shields. And all of these increases in price mean that many moneymakers are going to be making or are making a comeback or becoming even better. Don't forget that. These items are positively affecting money making on a variety of different combat levels, ranging from the mid-end with the Staff of Light and Gold Rush Dungeon 2 items to the higher end with Grim Pages from Solak. Now, in a recent Let's Chat video hosted by the RS Guy, joined by Mod Sponge and Mod Jack, some hints towards future changes to the Grand Exchange and death costs were revealed. Jagex is planning to add a 1% GE tax in the future, where the seller will receive 1% less gold. So let's say you're the buyer, you buy an item that is 100 million GP, The item costs 100 million GP in the Grand Exchange, but the seller will only receive 99 million GP. In reality, this will mean that items will likely be going up in price just a little bit to balance out that tax. Now, they also mentioned something huge, which is an increase in both the GE and money pouch limit.
So with the update where the GE tax is being applied, we're also going to be lifting that restriction on the GE. So you'll be able to trade items above max cash on the GE.
Is there any cap on that? Or is it
There is a
supposed to
theoretical
be-
cap. You're not going to hit that cap. It's 2 billion times 2 billion. So you're not going to.
Wow.
Wait, is that
So-
correct? Yeah, that's right.
This will mean that virtually any item ever will be tradable on the Grand Exchange with no restrictions. Now, it's a real shame they didn't mention anything about transparency in the last 50 or 100 trades on the Grand Exchange, as this is something I'd like to see personally. Perhaps this is something they are considering or looking into, but we don't know any specifics. This is a very high-level view of what's going to be changed in the future. Regarding dev costs, they mentioned that they're still going to be based on the GE gear value of items, but they're going to be reducing them straight up. They're going to reduce them to around...
I think in some situations you could see anywhere near as like 10% of what you're currently paying. It very much depends on the setup you currently have.
They believe the risk and punishment are in the wrong place, and dev costs have not kept up with the rest of the game, which means expensive items, inflation, and invention adding a bunch of switches to players' their inventories. They also mentioned that the Ring of Death will be reworked, and it won't have the same death saving effect because they don't want you to feel like you need to use it to reduce those dev costs, but it will be something useful. It's still going to be a useful ring. The estimated time of arrival for these Grand Exchange and dev cost changes are currently unknown. With that being said, we've come to the end of this video. If you enjoyed the video, found it interesting, please leave a like down below and maybe even consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.